My name is Michael Wytock. I'm the CEO of Coshx Labs. We're a distributed software consultancy in Charlottesville, Virginia. We use Neo4j with a couple of client projects that we've worked on, some of them in the intellectual property domain. We transitioned from a relational database to Neo4j in order to get some performance enhancements in some of the work that we've done. We noticed that there were a lot of database joins that were happening with the client's current architecture. So we chose Neo4j because we knew that we were going to be able to more expressively look through the data if we could avoid those database joins in the relational database and instead write queries that would allow us to kind of flexibly look through those pathways in the graph database. So when we were evaluating choices, we naturally started looking at a lot of different graph databases. Kind of the native graph model in Neo4j was a really big plus. I would say, in working with Neo4j, we found a really helpful community that cares about the product that they're working on. That's been really great to see. Sometimes there's projects that are really promising, but are wrapped up in maybe one or two people. The organization as a whole has been really easy to work with and extremely helpful, interested in the problems that we're working on. Surprising results that we've gotten from Neo4j would probably include just the connectedness of some data versus others. Oftentimes when you're in a relational database, you're not really thinking about what those connections are. It's not front and center to the analysis. You know that there's joins happening in the background, perhaps to get from one table to another. Sometimes you're creating some explicit ways to do those joins for you, but you're not just like, when you're writing a query, getting bombarded with what those are. And we were finding that for certain types of analyses, there were really going to be huge performance concerns running certain queries versus others on certain pieces of data if they were more connected. Probably a couple of things that we would probably do differently if we were kind of to start the projects that we've been working on over again are to make sure that we really know ahead of time what the model is going to be or what we desire for the model to be. So investing that time in planning and whiteboarding and looking at, if you're coming from a tabular data format, what the end result is that you want. It's somewhat expensive to go through and perhaps do a huge database dump, then do the import, and then pull that data in. Starting with something really minimal is oftentimes a lot easier. So that's one thing that we'd probably do. And then another is probably reach out to the community a little bit more quickly than we did. We ran into a couple of performance concerns. We really thought that there was just some bug in the system. Oftentimes it's something that someone else has encountered, and folks have been super helpful in the community in fixing those problems for us or turning us towards a resource that we didn't know about. With graph databases and data analytics, I think that it's exposing a lot of some really difficult engineering problems that have been kind of ameliorated a little bit by having this interface to kind of see the connections that are in our data. So when clients or business-facing folks ask for things that violate a relational database model, you now have a tool that you can show them, what those relationships look like, and those weren't really available before. So that interface between sort of the business-facing side and the engineering side is a lot easier. The friction is a little bit less. There's not as much work that has to be undone to explore data.